Hey everybody, welcome back. In the last two lessons we've gone ahead and sculpted out our fish inside of ZBrush, or one of our fish modules for an example. Now what we need to go ahead and do before we do anything else is make sure that our fish module is ready to go over to Maya, because we're going to have to do retopology inside of Maya. And that's just to make sure that everything is going to fit and flow properly. And we need to make sure that we have a geometric structure that's going to work in terms of being able to rig it properly. So I'm going to show you a couple techniques that I like to use to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and just load a fish here, and we're going to be using a different model here, and I just need to make sure that I load that Barracuda model here, which has already been painted as well. So this was really just to take a look at a second module that I would be putting into the rig, and I'll give you another different model as well whenever it comes time to go ahead and rig it, because that way I can go ahead and focus on also painting the model. So let's go ahead here and take a look at what we're going to need to do in terms of getting this over to Maya. So as you can see here, I have a completely finished model of a Barracuda fish, and we want to get this geometry or this fish model over to Maya so that we can actually do the retopology process specifically in Maya. I don't want to do the retopology 100% here inside of ZBrush, because this isn't an animation package. This is meant to really detail out your characters and really give you the ability to, model your characters to a point. But there's really no way around actually going into Maya, since Maya is going to end up being our final package anyway. It's just easier for me to do the retopology at least a little bit inside of Maya. I am going to try and shortcut that as much as I possibly can. And what I mean by that is I want to allow ZBrush to do as much as the retopology work that I can before I actually go over to Maya. So to go ahead and get this stuff ready over to Maya, what I want to first do is we'll go ahead here and just turn off our eyes, because we don't need to take those eyes over to Maya, because I would just simply create new eyes inside of Maya. Let's go ahead and duplicate our original Barracuda final mesh here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off one of them. I'm going to come up here to Z plugin, which you can also find here at the top, and I'm going to take the decimation master here. I'm going to turn the percentage of decimation down here to say maybe 10%, and that should be sufficient to jump over to Maya. I'm going to go ahead and pre-process the current here. This may take a little bit of time to go ahead and actually pre-process that. So once I press this button and maybe press the decimate current, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. This way you guys don't actually have to sit there and watch me decimate the current mesh, because it can take a bit of time, and that all depends on how high the polygon count is. So let me go ahead here and just pre-process the current. This might actually take a little bit of time. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and then when I come back, the mesh will be decimated. Okay, so now that we're back and I have the mesh decimated, and if we can take a look here, you can see where the mesh has been, I don't know if you would really call it triangulated. It's basically gone ahead and rebuilt the mesh's geometry the lowest it possibly can with the decimation master. Now at this point we need to export this out, so I'm just going to go through the steps here. I'll just go ahead and export this simply out to the desktop here. Okay, so we'll call this the Barracuda Deci body, just to signify exactly what it is, so I know whenever I go into Maya I can go ahead and do that decimation for you guys. Okay, so you can see that it's exporting out there. Now what I want to get across to you guys here is, if I went into Maya and tried to do the entire body's retopology, depending upon how experienced you are in Maya, it can still take a good amount of time to go ahead and do that retopology. But what I want to do is I want to be able to save myself that time as I can. Save myself as much time as I can instead of having to do the entire body of retopology. So what I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and jump down to my tool menu, and in my geometry layout I'm going to take here a look at Z-Remesher. I'm going to go ahead and hit 100 there, and I'm going to go ahead and Z-Remesh this. Now it should be noted that this may take a little bit of time once I press the Z-Remesher button, so I may have to pause the video again, and I apologize for that. So with it selected and running, you can see where it's kicking through here. Yeah, maybe I won't actually have to pause the video here. You can see where it's taking a little bit of time here. We'll just let ZBrush work here. And once it's done, you'll see where the actual retopology that ZBrush does is fairly good. The algorithm that ZBrush is using really does an awesome job, and it's really going to, cut your retopology time down hugely. And it really will save you guys a lot of effort instead of having to basically crush yourself into submission. It's going to help you out at an exorbitant amount. So we're about halfway done there. And it just takes a little bit of time to kick through. And you'll notice that I didn't change any of the adaptive size. I didn't draw out any Z-Remesher guides either, which you can always do. Man, we really need some sort of like elevator music there while it kicks through the Z-Remesher. Okay, so now it's gone ahead and kicked through. So you can see where the geometry here is fairly decent. There's really no major problems here. But what I'm going to do here is, this is obviously way too high to go ahead and rig. And we need to make sure that we cut this down to a level where it's going to be riggable inside of Maya. But since we have a good base here, what I want to do is go ahead and cut this in half. So we'll just turn on the half button here. Go ahead and hit Z-Remesh. And it's going to get faster and faster as we cut it down because it has less polygons to go ahead and retopologize. So you can see where this is much faster now. And if we go ahead here and take a look at this geometry, you can see where it's really starting to come down fairly well. Let's go ahead and, but this is still a little bit too high to go ahead and rig. So I want to go ahead and cut this down one more time. And this would be, I don't want to say perfect, but this is good enough to where we can actually get the retopology done inside of Maya. Maybe if we actually take a look here, that's actually not too bad. We may need to cut that down a little bit, or even adjust the retopology, because you can actually see the hole here. So let's go ahead and jump back to the estimated version here and see if we can actually do this at 75. And we'll see if this will actually change any of the retopology. So you can see where a lot of this is basically just trial and error. If something works, good. If it doesn't, just try something else. Just adjust one or two of the attributes just a little bit and see if it's going to change. And this is going to take a little bit of time to go ahead and run through. For our texturing process, I'm going to be using a different model, same with our rigging process. That way I can show you guys some unique rigging tricks, which will include like texture rigging and also eye changes, so we can have more than one different body color, and we can also have more than one different eye color. Okay, so let's go ahead here and cut this in half and see what happens. And obviously you can see we're, you know, running it the second time at 75 is just a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm just making sure that I keep my eye on the gills there, but the rest of the body here looks okay. I'm going to go ahead and run this one last time. Okay, so now this looks really good. And at this point I'm going to go ahead here and obviously you can see here where the tail is a little bit off, or one of the fins here is a little bit off, but that's fine. That's really no problem. I can go ahead and fix that inside of Maya fairly easy. So at this point I'm going to go ahead here and export this out, and I'm going to call this the Barracuda base low, or even say, you know, body low, so I really know exactly what it is. And now that I have that saved, I also want to come up here and take my subtool for the eyes, and we'll just go ahead and turn this down to 1, and I'll go ahead here and throw these out as well. That way I have the eyes whenever I want to go ahead and do the retopology. Okay, so now that everything is out and ready to go inside into Maya, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is basically stop the lesson here. And in the next lesson, we'll be inside of Maya and begin and go ahead and actually do our retopology process. So come on back, everybody, and we'll go ahead and do the retopology.